right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about more and more closures of restaurants, different brands. We already heard about the Red Lobster. We talked about it. We had some good comments. Again, thanks for the comments. Really, really good comments. Subscribe if you haven't. You know, somebody told me I should just let people know to subscribe, and I never do, but I'm going to try to throw that in there. Subscribe if you haven't. If you have some comments, leave them below. We're going to get into this real quick. Let's look at the news of how these restaurants are closing down.
Are the days of fast casual chain restaurants coming to an end? Just this week, two popular restaurants, Red Lobster and Applebee's, announced store closures all across the country, including locations in North Carolina. They're joining a wave of other household named chains forced to either shut down or shrink their real estate footprint in recent years.
Queen City News Chief Business Correspondent Taylor Young joining us now. Taylor, what's happening to some of our favorite chains?
I know, it's really disappointing and sad. So in the last couple of years, there has been really a perfect storm in the restaurant industry. Not only are they facing financial pressure following the pandemic, but they're also facing sort of a mindset change or shift from their customers who are also struggling financially themselves. So this is a list of the recent closures that have closed really in the last year or so. So this week, Red Lobster has temporarily closed 87 of its restaurants in 27 states, 4 of which are located right here in North Carolina. Also recently, Applebee's announced plans to downsize, closing between 25 to 35 of its restaurants. No timeline or locations have been publicly announced yet. And earlier this year, TGI Fridays said it will be closing 36 of its underperforming locations. And last year, Denny's closed doors of the 57 of its restaurants. Other chains like Hardee's, Outback, Steakhouse, Boston Market, and Cracker Barrel have also closed locations this year. And I know that these are really loved restaurants, but we're kind of seeing them dwindle.
So there you have it. We had this conversation before. These restaurants have not had the problem of the endless shrimp promotion by a marketing team that had no idea that it was going to destroy a whole brand, but they have been having problems of just not having the same amount of traffic before the pandemic. The pandemic was definitely one of the things that started it, but there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, the wage, these really big wage hike increases have been a big impact to these restaurants. And the other one is because of all these extra costs, and I keep on saying it over and over again, I'm just kind of repeating it, but just for those that have not seen my other videos, the small margin of profit in restaurants in general. So for you to even make a profit, you have to increase the prices. So that does not go very well, especially with these types of restaurants that they're considered to have better pricing, and you're able to have a full meal and have these nice meals here and there for better pricing. But they're getting to the point that these prices are as much as going to a non-chain, nicer restaurant that is offering better options. So if you have the choice, yeah, you're gonna end up going to the better option restaurant that's serving some real food instead of the chain restaurant. Not that it's not real food, but we all know it is what it is. And I have a whole theory about most of these restaurants. What is their whole recipe for running their food, the way they make food? I have a whole theory about it. If you guys want me to let you know my theory, let me know. But my theory, I think, is dead on. If you go over through all of these restaurants, kind of what style, I've been pretty. I feel, again, it's my opinion, my theory. But yeah, that's kind of what is really hurting a lot of these restaurants. That it's just the price. They're pricing themselves out of, business in a sense. Unless if you're in a great location, yeah, people are not gonna. You're not going to be their number one pick. So I feel that's what's really killing me.
In terms of the real estate footprint.
This is my childhood. I mean, these were huge, right? In the 90s and the early 2000s. So what's changed since then?
So there are a couple of factors really happening all at the same time here. So inflation, we know that's nothing new. Inflation really impacts all industries across the board, but really specifically the restaurant industry. So food prices alone have skyrocketed. And these mid-tier restaurants like your Applebee's, like your Chili's, they really market to the fact of their affordability. So it kind of puts them in a box in terms of how much they raise their prices without pushing people away. Now, on top of that,
And I know I basically saying exactly what I said, but even that, though that they are put in a box of how high they can raise their prices, it really goes for most restaurants. People are talking about fast food, fast casual, even the upper echelon of like the fine dining, type restaurants. There's always, a little bit of a line that you can push it over. That you can go over that line and you're going to lose customers. It's just the way it is.
wages have increased and so has rent. So these restaurants that are rent.
You know what? I didn't even think about the rent because everything's going up. So the rent, of course, is going up. If it's going up for just residential, it's definitely going for retail. So that's yeah. So you think about these businesses are raising their prices, and that's a whole nother one that I totally forgot about.
Renting, their locations, that of course is increasing. And when we talk about the restaurant industry as a whole, I mean, this is a very small, tight margin in terms of profits. So when you have all of these different costs increases, whether it's rent, whether it's wages, lost revenue, I mean, that is going to unfortunately lead to closures nationwide.
I mean, so obviously consumer hears too. Mm-hmm. How do they come into play with all this? Because some people may be looking at Red Lobster saying it's time for me to break up with my Cheddar Bay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the mindset actually has changed drastically with,
I guess,
customers, even if you do love them. But, you used to be able to go to this restaurant with your entire family and spend maybe $30, $40. Mm-hmm. But now, I mean, you could be spending more than $100. So people are really kind of looking at that and saying, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe I'm going to stick with my fast food like a Chipotle, McDonald's, or Domino's. And if they do want to spend more money, they'll go to higher end places instead. So, every single company that...
All right. So, yeah, it makes sense. If you are pricing yourselves the same price as the higher end restaurants or the better restaurants that have better offerings, because honestly, I've said it before, many of these restaurants, what I see in common as a chef is that these foods are prepared either with excessive amount of sugar, either high in sodium, or they're usually fried. So I call it the trifecta of like this style of food, which is very common on fast food, but it just spilled on to like the cheesecake. I went to Cheesecake Factory and I had at one time they had tamales, and I tried tamales and the tamales tasted like it was a dessert, and I'm just like, this is not supposed to taste like this. But this is one of the things. It's either got to be extra sweet, it's got to be high in sodium, or usually high in fat. Or sometimes it's the trifecta. You get all three. But if you look at their menu, you might find maybe between 5 and 10 dishes in there. And I'm talking about if you look at the whole menu from appetizers to everything, you might see maybe lucky 10 total. And I'm talking about like an example of Cheesecake Factory, which has huge menu. But most of the menu is made out of high sodium, too much sugar, or it's fried, or it has too much fat. It's usually one of those three things, those dishes.
Announced closures this year mentioned financial issues, and that directly is related to a drop in revenue.
All right, so what does this mean for, I guess, the future of these fast casual dining establishments?
So when it comes to this fast casual industry, location is absolutely everything. So what I think we're going to continue seeing if this trend continues,
location, okay. Big alert. Location is key for every single restaurant segment. Not just this one. You can't say, every segment can say, my segment is more important about the location. No, every single segment, location, no matter if you are selling food from a hot dog stand, wherever you located, that location is about, I'm going to throw a number out there, it's probably about 80% of the success of your business. The other success is if you actually know what you're doing. But if you have a great location and you know what you're doing, or have even an inkling of what you're doing, because I've been in places that I'm like, well, how the hell? It's just the freaking location. So location goes for everything across the board. But It's not just this one. That's what I meant to say. But they are true. This segment, of course, location, because every single segment, location is the number one key.
Inflation is kind of not really going anywhere right now. We could be seeing more waves of restaurants.
All right. So overall, not a bad story, and overall, I think they're pretty accurate. Not because I agree with everything, but just factual is pretty accurate. That's kind of what some stuff opinion based, like I said about the location. I think location is just key for every single restaurant segment in most businesses in general, unless if you're in a business that you don't need necessarily customers to go to that location. With that being said, leave your comments below, subscribe if you haven't, and leave me any comment, even if you disagree with me. Leave the comments below. I would love to hear them and respond to it. All right, peace. Later.